Shalom, dear friends. It's wonderful to be with you, and we have the pleasure to bring and interviews from the land of Israel. We're in the hills of Jerusalem, and it's just so wonderful to be able to connect with you. Like the Jewish people are coming back. The land is alive. There is crop in the fields. There is people coming from all around the world to settle the land again. But it hasn't been an easy journey. And the Jewish people have been through so much trauma by events that happened, by pogroms, by the Holocaust, and even centuries before. A lot of, they had to convert to Christianity. I mean, the community have been really punched on the face. And so today we have Jackie Goldman. Jackie, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
This is
Thank
lovely
you,
to
Natalie.
have you here. And Jackie is an expert in trauma and stress, and she's going to speak to us about these things. Like we had a terror act, and so there was 22 people who died, there was 120 people who went to the hospital. And it's not just these individuals who are touched, it's the families, the community, it's Manchester, it's the UK, and it's the world. So today, we want really to give you some tools to be able to deal with these things, and speaking about that with Jackie. Jackie is from America, and she make Aliyah, so she came to live in Israel, and she received a bachelor degree in psychology from the Yeshiva University, Stern College for Women, and she had also a master degree in counseling and human relations from Villanova University. And she's done many years of dealing with that, speaking. She's done some workshops. She was doing it with MADA and Atsala, which is the emergency services in Israel. She's done it with the police. She's done it also with the firefighters. And she looked also, she was helping the Kobe Mandel Foundation for 13 years. And we've done also already a program about that. And it was about coping with children and teenagers and family who had beloved ones who've been in terror act, and also sometimes sicknesses. So she had a lot of stories, and also knowing how to speak with the people. So Jackie, it's your turn now. Thank you again for coming. I think it's so important. And let us start maybe how you went into this field.
Okay, thank you. When I first moved to Israel, I was working as a guidance counselor for high school and university students that came to Israel from abroad. And then when the terrorist acts of the Second Intifada began in 2001, 2002, fewer and fewer students were coming. And so I had very little work to do. And so I began working with different areas. And at one point, I received a phone call from the Israel Center for the Treatment of Psychotrauma, which means emotional trauma, asking me whether I would be interested in learning to share tools of resilience and coping mechanisms throughout Israel. And I jumped at the opportunity, even though I didn't have training in that field. I had sensitivity. But
you've still done like psychology, counsel, and human relations. You had like already kind of a foundation somewhere.
Correct, but it takes special tools and training, which I was able to get on the job. I'm sure you know that, and it happens all over the world, when there's a horrible thing happening, we seem to be glued to the television. Which is not a great thing, by the way. That's a tip we'll talk about later on. And I was feeling, I'm sitting on the couch here. My daughter was a volunteer in the Israel Red Cross, Magen David Adom, MADA, and I could drive her to help, but all I could do was sit on the couch and cry and pray, and I had no ability to reach out. And all of a sudden, God, I really believe so strongly, like a little pussycat, that the cat picks her up by the nape of the neck. God just brought me into this field, and through that to the Kobe Mandel Foundation as well.
I know when something happens, obviously your body is in shock, but there is also the soul, something happening also to you, like your spirit, your mind. So can you give us a bit how we have to cope when something, the step for reality, first of all, we need to see what's happening in us, and after be able to come out of that.
Okay, sure. So we need to differentiate between somebody who is exposed to, we call it a secondary trauma, somebody who's exposed to a trauma that's happening to other people, or somebody who himself or herself is exposed to trauma. And you talk about the...
Maybe you can speak about both.
Right. You talk about the mind, body, soul connection. If a person is exposed to trauma, he or she needs to forget mind, forget soul, and get their body out of where they are. Survival is the thing, which is why I'm going to jump on television. I'm going to jump. If during the attacks, if we would hear a loud noise, it was a natural instinct to go like this. And then we'd realize that it was not an attack, it was a flat tire or something, or just a kid playing the drum, and we would laugh at ourselves. But we shouldn't, because the first thing that we do when we're exposed to the threat of trauma, our body takes over and we start to run. It's very primitive. It's like the lion in the jungle. You don't sit and think, well, is he behind a cage, or is he in a cage, or is that the trained lion that I saw in the movie? You just run. You just get out of there, or you freeze, your body takes over. The same thing happens to us if we're exposed to scenes of terror or trauma on television, where our bodies are, in a sense, disconnected from our minds and our souls. Which is why every time we see those clips, I don't know if any of you who are watching are old enough to remember Buckwheat was shot. There was a program on Saturday Night Live where they would keep showing the same clip of Buckwheat, this imaginary character, getting shot and joking around about it. But when we see this, our bodies don't know, oh, I saw that clip already. And so the body is re-experiencing this terrible, draining experience. Once we can come to terms with that, then we can allow our minds and our souls, our spirits, to start doing the work that needs to be done.
So how does it work? Because we were speaking about the television, and I know a lot of people are watching the television, and a lot of the news from all around the world, it usually is the television. The radio, but the radio is different because it's only hearing.
Right.
The television is the eyes, so it goes really into you. So could you speak also a bit about that, how people, what they should do, or maybe avoid?
Turn it off. Try to avoid it. Definitely try to avoid your children, young adults, or teenagers, I'm sorry, watching these things over and over, because it has that very draining impact. It gets internalized, and the fear gets re-emphasized and re-experienced.
You're like feeling it.
Right. Your body is feeling it even when your mind knows that it's not happening.
This is interesting. So you really take it in even if you know, okay.
Yeah. You're definitely experiencing it on a physiological level. The same way that if so many of us walk past a baby and we just smile, right? We're not thinking, oh, what a cute baby, I think I'm going to smile now, and sending the neurons. We just smile automatically. That's what our body does. And then we put together what a cute baby, and then we may say, thank you, God, for creating this beautiful baby, right? But first, we're going to have that physiological response. Yeah, so
this is, in a way, this is bad when they are showing the thing again and again. It's like you are reliving it all the time.
It's great for ratings.
Yes, that's it. Which is interesting what you're saying, because yesterday I was just reading an article of a lady, maybe, I don't think, it's just yesterday, and she was saying that she was speaking about a way that they are starting to use, and is all with the eyes. So there is something in the brain. It's very interesting.
It's incredible. It's called, if it's the same thing, it's called EMDR.
Yes, you're
I
right.
know nothing about it other than it works wonderfully. People who are exposed to trauma learn these techniques, and it's just that whole mind-body connection that you and I have spoken about before, and is so strong. And it's a way of substituting, not erasing the negative thing that happened, because we can't, but substituting a way of processing in our minds with a healthier way of dealing with the world, so that we can move forward.
It's amazing because, you know, when I think, I mean, and it's written when you read in Daniel, in the book of Daniel, that at the end of the time is like a birth time where there is things that happening in the world for redemption. If we look at on that side, and like it's birth pain. Birth pain are birth pain. We're both mothers. We know how it is, but what I like also with the Jewish people, you always take the positive things of it, and like even when bad things happen, is like we are learning more of the human mind and how we are made in an amazing way, and it's quite amazing. We live in troubled time, but we need to keep this hope, and like we are learning more the tools of getting out of it, and again, if we want to be really. If we look ahead, we know that redemption is coming, and one day they will have no more weapons, and we'll put them down, and it's important to know. Okay.
But wouldn't we all rather have a short labor than a long labor?
Tell me.
And this
and
has been a
epidural
really
and all this kind of thing.
Exactly. We need the tools. So we can talk about some of the tools, not like an epidural that numbs and a woman does not feel pain, but tools that help us cope with the pain. Correct, breathing. And in Hebrew, the word for breathing is nishima, and the word for soul is nishama, which is, you know, the breathing gives our soul strength and the ability to work, and our soul gives us the ability to breathe. And we often feel that in Israel, where the soul of the Jewish people, whether it's a religious soul or a national soul or a genetic soul, that our soul, in a sense, forces us to breathe. You know, it's like the DNA, and it says, keep going, keep going. And when we talk about losses of life, losses of physical ability, of emotional stability as a result of terror, we need to talk about how we can find ways to continue despite those losses, and along with those losses.
So give us some tools.
Okay. Faith works really wonderfully, but we'll get to that in a little while. And faith doesn't need to be faith in a higher power. I used to tell my kids when they studied for their end-of-year exams that if you study, you'll do better than if you don't study. And it wasn't just beating them over the head. It was saying you have to and can have faith in yourself. That if you do something, you'll be able to impact on the future. And so one of those things is faith. A huge aspect that we really touched on is support systems. Very often the support system is what gives us the strength to go on. And in Israel, we're a very close-knit community. We're a family, which means we scream and yell at one another, and we blow the horn all the time. And when anybody is in pain, we're holding them and hugging them. And there are thousands and thousands of people who don't know you, who, I don't know if you
stop in the street and start to speak with you.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. During the war in the South, the last war, Tzuk Eitan, I don't remember what it's called in English. It was a war in the summer that came right after the 3 boys were kidnapped and killed. My friend's grandson, who thank God survived, was hospitalized. He was injured severely in an attack where his 4...
The shield something,
Shield, protective shield?
Protective shield, that's it, yeah, is the name, protective shield.
So he was in the hospital in Beersheba in the south of Israel. And I went to visit him, and there was no way to get in because the hospital, was filled with people who did not know anybody there, but were bringing food, and were bringing iPads, and were bringing blessings. And every religion, there were Hasidic Jews in black garb who weren't worried about, am I going too close to a woman? And there were people in Muslim dress who weren't thinking about anything other than bringing love and blessings to the soldiers that were in the hospital. So we all come together when we need to. What happens within a family is it's sometimes hard because each person has his or her own loss. So that our campers in the camp for bereaved children would talk about how I didn't only lose my brother in a terror attack, but my parents are no longer the parents that I used to have. They don't have room for me. They love me dearly. They don't have room for me. And so if one lives in a community that can embrace you, that brings you a casserole, that prays for you, that takes the kids to school so that you don't have to worry about getting them on the bus for months after the tragedy.
I remember Sherry speaking about that, how people were helping her. And again, she was coming from America where people are more individual, and like how she had this amazing support here in the land of people just caring so practically for her.
And that's what brought Sherry and Seth to start this organization, because they got so much support from the outside, and their children didn't get as much because people think kids are resilient, so they'll be fine. And kids are resilient, and they may not be fine. You know, they need to have, yes, I'm gonna, I'm your teacher, and I'm gonna give you a regular schedule so that you'll feel secure. But that teacher also needs to have the tools to know not to demand homework right away because that child may be in a different place in their minds. So you're leading me to think of the term post-traumatic growth, which Seth and Sherry Mandel are perfect examples of people who lost a son so sadly, so tragically, and they took the energy of the loss, didn't make the pain go away, but the energy of the loss, they took that to build an organization to support other people. We have an organization in Jerusalem called Zichron Menachem, the memory of Menachem, which is an organization for children suffering from cancer. And it was founded by people who lost a child to cancer. And so Rose Kennedy did it when she had a child who was emotionally ill, and she ended up giving millions of dollars in support to establish mechanisms for families who had children with special needs.
This is interesting. This is amazing. Maybe we can touch also a bit, because we have just 5 minutes now, children and adults. Like you were saying, like we don't react the same. Children maybe might not be able to say things, but they have so much inside. So how do you cope? How do you do it? How do you help them?
So we know that children from birth, and some of our mothers talk about if they were pregnant with a child, from birth through 5 years old, have very different ways of coping. They become very clingy. They have regressive behavior. A child who was toilet trained may start wetting the bed. A child who stopped sucking his or her thumb may start doing that again. Very clingy, needing support. And so we try to, knowing that, we try to build in a system that will help those children. Children from 6 until 12, 13, and obviously these numbers are very flexible, and we're talking about a normative population. They have a lot of trouble concentrating, which is something that all adults do. And we also regress ourselves when we have problems. When my mother passed away, I became my sister's little sister again instead of being an adult, So they'll have trouble concentrating. They'll have trouble trusting and loving because they've lost somebody that they love. We're talking here about losses and loss of innocence, being in a terrorist attack, even if you aren't injured physically in that attack. Your life is just different. Teenagers, no matter how much they're together and get support from one another, they feel isolated. They may feel totally surrounded with love and caring and other kids that are just like them, and they feel isolated and alone. And there's a lot of risk-taking behavior among teenagers, almost as if they're saying, I'll decide how I'm going to get into trouble. I'll decide. I'm not going to let the world decide. And then what we try, and that's a very general kind of thing, and adults have all of it. And one of the best tools for helping is a sense of community, a sense of support, and if the person or people are receptive to spiritual support, to prayer, to services, to connecting in whatever way with the person that they lost, then that's a huge, huge asset.
I heard also that when you go through something like that, which is a bit like when you have a car accident, you have to go into the car again and drive again. Is it a bit the same, like you have to have a reality and you have to do certain, can you give me a bit if there is certain step that you have to do quickly if you don't want to go into an abyss?
So the thing about all of us, each of us in this room, each of us in the world, is that we have our individual ways of coping. Mm-hmm. And some people need to go back the next day to the site of the attack, of the incident. They need to see it. They need to use their minds, use that cognitive processing to understand exactly what happened. And other people need to stay in bed with the covers up and everywhere in between. And so what we talk about is the need to find the balance that's healthy and appropriate.
For yourself.
So that if I need to stay in bed, I need to let myself stay in bed, and I need to trust myself and the people who love me to help me get out of bed when it's time. And if I need to stand there and take pictures of the site where the accident or the trauma, the terrorist attack was, and write everything down, I need to have people around me that are going to enable me, when I'm ready, to face the emotional cost that happened. And so the timing is vital, and the place is vital. We need to trust ourselves, and we need to trust the people around us to help give us a framework for recovery. And recovery is the absolute wrong word. For returning to a place of health along with that pain and with that loss.
Yeah, because you will still carry it, but you have to change it, isn't it? It doesn't disappear.
Right. Okay. It's really important to close that if we have post-traumatic symptoms, if we have nightmares after we've been exposed to a trauma, or if we've seen one on television and we have nightmares about our own children, that's perfectly normative. But if it's going on for too long, or if we can't let our children go to school because we're afraid something might happen, there needs to be a time limit to allow those symptoms. So that if I jump when I hear a loud noise, that's fine, as we said at the beginning. But if I'm jumping at every loud noise, then it's time to say to myself, I deserve to get help. I deserve to have somebody help me put things in perspective and help me return to being as whole as I can be, and I may even be a better me than I was before it happened. It's a huge cost.
You're right, you're right, which is so true. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for...
You're so welcome.
No, thank you, because I know we need that. I know that people all around the world like having tools and see what's happening in us. And you know what? We were speaking about that already, we are all made in the image of God, which is, we have this preciousness, and the world sometimes things happen, events happen to us, but like what you say, we need to know ourselves, we need to trust each other, and we need to be able to build something, and sometimes we can't do it by ourselves. We need the help of other people around us. And I hope that this program with Jackie helps you today. And from Jackie and from me, bye, and see you next week. Shalom, dear friends. So today we're looking at two specific names, man, which is Ish, and woman, who is Isha. And you know, we look at the root of the names, and which is very important because usually the word will have 3 letters, which will be the root. Like the first one will show the source of the word. The one in the middle will be more like the matter of the word, and the last one will be more the goal. So it's very important to know this kind of thing because it's like basic to be able to understand the Hebrew language. So when you look at Ish and Isha, both of them start with the letter Aleph, and we know that Aleph now represents God, so we are made in the image of God, so we carry him wherever we are. We are made in the image of God, okay? And after, they have two letters in common. They have this Aleph, and they have also Shin. And when you put the two letters together, you will have Esh, and Esh is fire. So obviously when you put a man and a woman together, you need to have a bit of fire. But again, we need to know how we use the fire, because fire can be used for destroyed, or fire can be used for being warm. So we need to know and control what's happening and control our appetites. So when you see in the name Ish and Isha, we have two letters who are different. Man is with the Yod, and women is with the He. And when you put again these two letters together, it means the name Yah, which is like Yud He Vav He, which is the tetragrammaton of, it's like the holy name of God, okay? So again, when you put a man and a woman together and they are married and they are coming together, again, God is present there. It's because of that that God wanted to make this covenant of marriage. And he is in the middle of the covenant of marriage between a man and a woman. So today we look at few words. We look at Ish, which is a man. We look at Isha, which is the woman. We look at Esh, which is fire. And we look at the name Yah, which is from the name Yehovah. And like you know this name already because we use it when we say Alleluia, which is praise the Lord. I hope that you enjoy that. I will see you next week. Bye. Jackie, thank you again for coming and speaking to us about trauma, stress, and this subject. And from me and from Jackie, we say bye and see you next week.